Good afternoon, all. I'll call the meeting of the board to, I apologize. Let's try this again. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you'll please join me in a pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the and to the republic, one nation, indivisible, justice for all. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go into 1.03, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. 1.04 is the introduction of our Elko County School District Student Board Member, Scotty Adams.
Okay, I have that.
Go ahead, Mrs. Brooke.
Scotty Adams is a junior at Spring Creek High School with a 3.7 cumulative GPA. He is involved with student council and will be SCHS's student body president for the 24-25 school year. Scotty is a member of Spring Creek High School cross-country team and Spring Creek High School track team. His future plans are to graduate high school with a 4.0 GPA, serve a 2-year LDS mission, and after that, attend college to search for a career.
Not to put you on the spot, but anything you want to say at this point, Scotty?
I'm just happy to be here and have this opportunity to speak to have that the behalf of students at Spring Creek High, and yeah, excited for more opportunities to come.
All right. At this time, we will move to 1.05, recognition of our STEM Fair Grand Prize winners, McKenna Curtis and Jamie Stoops.
So, hi, I'm James Brawley, one of the fair directors. So we had 471 projects this year, quite a few students, about the same as last year. The two girls you're about to meet, they'll be going to LA next week for the International Science and Engineering Fair. And so we're excited for that. First one will be McKenna Curtis to present from
Great.
EHS.
Thank you.
I'm pretty loud, so I'm not going to use the microphone again so I can read off my board. So the purpose of my science fair project this year was to help inform everyone and help everyone better understand kind of how our bodies work. So I myself am an athlete, and I've always kind of been curious as to how we get our energies and just in general how our bodies work. So my science fair project explored the effects of enzymes in our body and their effect on sugars, sucrose, and how it breaks it down into glucose. So I first, researched some big terms that I used in this project, like to figure out what enzymes were, which they're proteins that help to break down and see the chemical reactions in our bodies, or there are metabolism. The enzyme in our body, sucrase, breaks down sucrose into glucose and fructose. And in this project, that's what I mainly focused on, was how sucrase breaks down sucrose into glucose. So I used the enzyme invertase, which acts just as sucrase does in our bodies. Sucrose is a scientific term for table sugar, and it is a type of carbohydrate. It is a disaccharide or a double sugar. It is made of equal parts of 2 single sugars, glucose and fructose. And glucose is where we get all of our energy from. It's what our cells need to function. So I did a few different experiments in this project. I first did some control experiments to make sure my materials were working properly. I tested some glucose strips, and I made 7 different sucrose solutions with water and sugar just to see the different levels to make sure that the glucose test strips measured the percent of glucose available in those solutions correctly, and they did work, thankfully. And then the second experiment that I did, so let me backtrack. My two hypotheses for this project were if the enzyme invertase is being tested on its ability and efficiency to convert sucrose into glucose, then I think that the amount of glucose in foods will increase because the enzyme sucrase in our body is being recreated through the enzyme invertase. And if the samples of foods, applesauce, orange juice, and syrup are being tested, then I think that syrup will have the most amount of glucose and applesauce will have the least. So the first experiment that wasn't necessarily a control experiment, I looked into how the enzyme invertase worked and how it affected the levels of glucose in foods. So this test determined how much time was needed for the enzyme to convert most of the sucrose. A 10% sucrose solution was made by filling a cup with 60 milliliters of water, then adding 6 grams of sucrose. I tested the level of glucose before I added the invertase, and then I measured it in intervals of 5 minutes for the first 30 minutes, and then 10 minutes after that until the level of glucose leveled out or stopped increasing. So I found that it took 70 minutes for the enzyme invertase to fully convert the sucrose into glucose. So that helped me to figure out how long I needed to let the foods that I was testing sit with the enzyme. So I then moved on to my next experiment where I tested applesauce, orange juice, and syrup, and to see how their levels of glucose would be affected by the enzyme. I first diluted these samples, so 1 to 10 dilution with water to make the readings more accurate. And I measured the level of glucose with the test strips before and 70 minutes after, and I found that the level of glucose did increase quite significantly. And then, so for my conclusion, the purpose of this experiment was to better understand how enzymes affect glucose levels in the foods our bodies intake. It was also to know which of the foods we tested had the most/least amount of glucose. How does an enzyme convert sucrose into glucose? How does it change the amount of glucose digested from the different foods? It was concluded that my hypotheses were supported with this project and that the enzyme invertase did effectively convert sucrose, increasing the amount of glucose in these foods, and that applesauce did have the least amount of glucose and syrup had the most. Thank you. And I will now pass it on to Jean Stoops.
My name is Jane, and I'm doing a math project. My project was about generalized forms of Fibonacci numbers. And the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence where you start with 0 and 1, and all of the terms after is the later terms are the sums of the 2 preceding terms. Like the first 2 are 0 and 1, and then the next one is 0 plus 1, which is 1, and then 2, then 3, then 5, and so on and so forth. My project was asking what happens if you take the limit as what if you take the ratio of successive terms and the terms get infinitely large, what happens to the value of that ratio? And I found that the value of that ratio approached, as the terms approached infinity, the value approached the greatest real x-intercept of a polynomial given by the sequence. So the Fibonacci sequence, you add the previous 2 terms together. So the polynomial starts with x squared, so then it's minus x minus 1. There's a sequence called the Fibonacci sequence, which is, it starts with 0, 0, 1, and you have the previous 3 terms. And the polynomial for that is x to the 3rd, so it's x squared minus x minus 1. So the general formula, or not formula, more generalized, if you add a certain amount of terms, say K terms, then the value of the ratio approaches the greatest real x-intercept of x to the power of k minus x to the power of k minus 1, minus x to the power of k minus 2, so on and so forth, all the way to x squared minus x minus 1. And I showed that through a lot of algebra and properties of limits.
Thank you very much. We appreciate those presentations. Anything from the board?
I was gonna say, I could tell, there were some nerves, but when you were explaining that, you could have messed something up in there. I don't think any of us would have caught it. You did a great job, and that is just very impressive. I would have loved to talk to whoever had to judge these science fair projects.
Whoa, speak for yourself. I understood about a third of it.
Okay.
I just
Very
second,
impressive.
you guys did a great job, but I was just saying, I do prefer syrup over applesauce, over algebra. So
And I'm just, good luck. When
Yeah.
you travel next week, we're excited for you to represent Elko County School District with your project. So thanks for your hard work and go out there and show them what we got.
Absolutely, yes. I'd like to echo that as well. Good luck. And Jamie and McKenna, if we can have you both come on up here, we'd like to shake your hands and present you with a certificate as well.
Great job. I prefer orange juice. Great job.
Let's give them one more round of All right, at this time, we'll move to item 1.06, which is to receive a presentation from the Flagview Cougar Pride Leadership Group.
And they are ready to present to you guys, so thank you. I will take it.
FIS Cougar Pride is our school leadership group where we take on projects to bolster school pride and belonging. Students in the club read school announcements over the intercom, plan Spirit Week activities, are involved in assemblies, run the school store, and much more. Students must go through an application process to become a member of Cougar Pride.
Week of Respect. Each year during the first week in October, schools and districts across the state of Nevada engage in activities and learning opportunities that highlight the importance of safe and respectful learning environments called the Week of Respect. Cougar Pride sold kindness grams, which included a positive message along with a treat students could send to peers and staff. We also distributed information about anti-bullying, cyberbullying, ways to report it, empathy, and ways to foster positive human relations among peoples.
Cougar Pride is in charge of developing the theme of the Spirit Dress-Up Day of the week. Classes that have the most participation during each quarter are rewarded with ice cream parties. In October, Cougar Pride participated in Unity Day, which is a day students wear and share orange to send a visible message of building community through kindness, acceptance, and inclusion to prevent bullying.
Cougar Pride assisted with setup and cleanup of 2 dances held this school year, which fundraised a lot of money for our school. Cougar Pride is in charge of promoting school events and participating in them so that others are inspired and motivated.
Cougar Pride was able to spend $0 and donate a Taylor Swift themed tree to the community's Festival of Trees, which was auctioned for $160 that went back to the local charities and nonprofits. This is the way we would do stuff in Cougar Pride. We would do the school store. We sold Valentine's Day grams, boo grams, hat day on dry days, food drives, over 200 pounds of food donated to the local nonprofit. Funds were used to purchase FIS staff breakfast burritos for Teacher Appreciation Week.
Cougar Pride has been responsible for escorting 4th grade students and classes through a tour of FIS to prepare them for upper elementary this month.
On Earth Day, Cougar Pride picked up garbage around campus to keep our grounds looking standard and to encourage other students to pick up after themselves and others. Cougar Pride has planned to repaint and amplify the bus stop curbs by the end of the school year.
These are our members of Cougar Pride: Juliana Armendez, Conrad Lids, Paisley McKnight, Bryn Preston, Macy Sessions, Roxy Featherstone, Emma Stone, Vanessa Naranjo, Daxton Haskins, Esteban Estrada, Elko Williams. This is our 6th grade: Sienna Quintero, Cash Brown, Alex Montez, Kaylee Bauman, Ann Wallace, Isabella Romero, Annie McConnell, Aislinn Garcia, Gracie Carr, Brianna Villegas, Victoria Ponce Camperos, and me.
And then why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, because I completely forgot.
I am Emma Stone. I'm Esteban Estrada.
I'm Aqua Williams.
I'm Daxton Haskin.
And I'm Chloe Oros.
Thank you for letting us present.
Now, those are some Cougars I can root for.
Thank you guys very much. And thank you for wherever you placed the Taylor Swift tree, because it would have gone for much higher had either my wife or my daughter-in-law seen it. So thank you guys for that. And thanks for supporting our community as well as your school grounds. That's pretty cool. Thanks for supporting your students too, your fellow students. All right.
And just great job. Come back and talk to us anytime. You guys did great.
We will now move on to 1.07, which is recognition of the April S.T.A.R.S recipients.
It's me. All right.
Yes, you are a star.
Yes, I am April and every month. I'm going to try to follow the example of those kind children after Jeff's veiled disparaging BYU comments. That's all right. We're gonna move. Yeah, that's right. I see you, Jeff. So one of these, I can't remember which one. One of these is from a previous, is from March, maybe. There's one of these from May, Susan. Katie, oh, Katie's from before. Okay. So we have 4 that we're going to recognize tonight. We'll go first. I'm just going to go in the order I have them here. So first, Mr. Steven right there. Steven, why don't you come stand up front while I talk about you? So Steve Cottrell is one of our district computer technicians. So he was gonna say works here in our offices, but I see Steve very little because he comes in and then he's out supporting our schools a ton. Occasionally he'll fill in for somebody else and he'll be around here doing stuff in our building, but he's mostly out there making sure our schools are doing okay. So his nomination came from someone who wishes to remain anonymous, and they said this following brief but pointed nomination. Steve is always available to help when we have technology issues here at EHS. He is quick to respond, tries his best to find a way to keep us working and the kids able to learn, and he is pleasant to deal with. It's always a bonus when you can be pleasant. He has saved my bacon a lot this year, and my class runs smoothly because of it. And that is what they said about Steve. And so thank you, Steve, from, I'm sure not just that teacher at EHS, but all those teachers and the other schools you help take care of, and even us here. You guys save our bacon all the time, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Mac, do we have people online?
Oh, yes, they're online.
We do? Oh, I guess Susan, is Katie online with us? Okay. Oh, hi, Katie. There you are. I didn't see anybody on the screens. I was a little paranoid there for a second.
And if we can have everybody hold tight for just a moment, don't leave quite yet. We're going to do a round of shaking hands.
Yeah, have a seat, Steve. We'll get you in a minute. Yeah, hang out. All right, so on the screen, smiling at us is Katie Estrada. Katie is a special education teacher out at Jackpot Combined School, and she also kind of fills in and doubles as a dean of sorts and helps out with a lot of things there in Jackpot. So Katie was also nominated by someone who wishes to remain anonymous, and they said the following: Katie is a hard worker who only thinks about all the students or children who are or aren't in the school. She wants the Jackpot students to be successful in school and life. Katie doesn't mind using her funds to make school events happen because she enjoys seeing the children have an enjoyable event. She has her special education children participating in a Nevada Department of Education program. The school no longer has a vice principal, and Katie has taken it upon herself to help the principal with those duties. She currently oversees 6 special education paraprofessionals and works with all of her students. Katie has a wonderful, I'm going off script now. Katie has a wonderful, what we call a PAES lab out there. And I don't know exactly what each of those letters stand for, PAES, and it's about real life skills that our students can learn for operating in the real world. And she was kind of on the forefront of that and does a great job with it. We had a wonderful, Katie had a wonderful reception. She was mad at everybody in the room for surprising her and gathering to welcome her and celebrate her. But it was kids, it was staff members from all around the school. And from my perspective, it was well worth the drive out to Jackpot to hand that to Katie and recognize all the hard work she does out there in Jackpot. So congratulations again, Katie, and thanks for joining us on Zoom today.
Katie, thank you very much. And we will definitely shake your hand the next time we're up in Jackpot, whether individually or collectively. And please let us know when you come into Elko next. If we can shake your hand then we'll be happy to there as well.
All right. Laura Pope, come on down. Everybody, this is Laura. Laura's awesome. Laura is a music teacher at Spring Creek Elementary, and she doesn't just teach music, but she also she and I participated in a production together last year. That was fun. So Laura was nominated by a parent who also wishes to remain anonymous, and she said, "Mrs. Pope is one of the kindest teachers I know. She is always smiling. She always goes out of her way to help her students and her school in any way she can. Every year she has each grade put on amazing performances. All her 3rd graders are learning the recorders. Her 4th and 5th graders are learning to use the ukuleles. When she is not teaching music, she is assisting students that need extra help or helping other teachers with class prep. She is one of a kind." When we walked into her room, the kids were playing ukuleles. They were, I think, 5th graders, and they were playing 4th graders. fifth, they were fifth? Okay. They were fifth graders and they were playing ukuleles for the second or third graders that were sitting there in the room. She didn't know why those other kids were in the room. We brought them in to have more people to clap for her, but the kids were just like, okay, yeah, we'll play ukuleles for the younger kids, and it was awesome. It was great, and all the kids were so happy and smiling, and they love her. That's obvious, and so we really appreciate everything you do there, and you know how I feel about music and the arts. So from me, thank you to you for helping to perpetuate those and help our kids have a joy of music. So thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. All right, our last one is Sherry Sanders. I'm hoping she's on Zoom. I think we got that worked out. Yeah, there you are, Sherry. Hi. So I had there's a lot of nominations. She actually got 3, I think, and it's a page and a half or so. So I'm going to be reading here in a second, but I got to work with Sherry for the 2 years I was out in Wells, and so kind of I attach my testimonial of the veracity of all these things I'm about to read about Sherry because it's all true and more. So 3 nominations went Sherry's way, and sorry, she was a special education teacher at Wells Combined School. So the first person she was nominated by is another employee named Karen Ozels. I said that right. I first worked with Sherry Sanders in 2016 during my school psychology internship with ECSD. During that year, Sherry went above and beyond in helping the students of Wells Elementary, particularly in the area of reading disabilities, including dyslexia. Sherry was a sponge, absorbing as much information as she could, taking suggestions from this colleague and turning them into successful methods of helping her students. In addition, she began researching and implementing programs that ultimately helped many young students become successful. It is a pleasure to be working with the great team at Wells Combined Schools again, especially Sherry. She has never backed down from a challenge and has never stopped volunteering to assist her colleagues where needed. We have several students diagnosed with reading disabilities in the elementary school this year, and when asked for assistance in providing these students with specific services, Sherry immediately agreed to help and jump into action. Again, she did research and was able to obtain an evidence-based program to use and immediately agreed to take on additional work to help these students. As is typical of her, she did not hesitate nor consider the extra time and energy her agreement would take. Instead, her concern was focused on the students, what they needed, and how she could best help them be successful. It is such a pleasure working with so many dedicated, caring teachers at Wells Combined Schools, the majority of whom are always willing to help where they are needed. Sherry is a wonderful example of this culture of dedication, caring, and selflessness. I am proud to know and be part of the Wells team. Next, someone who nominated her, this was actually dates all the way back to December of 22. We hold on to nominations, and so this one's been around for a minute. And this person wished to remain anonymous, and they said, I have known Sherry for 25 years. She was a substitute teacher for many years and decided to pursue a teaching degree after her children were raised because she loves kids. Her father and grandfather worked for the school district as bus drivers. She attended Wells Combined School, and so did her children. She is invested, and it shows. She has grown into a dedicated, well-rounded teacher that has excelled at her craft. She masterfully works with teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals to ensure her students get the best education possible. She has worked hard to become a master at supporting teachers, especially in math and science. Her students love her and work very hard for her. Sherry is ever learning and is very knowledgeable about special education law and process. She writes very clear and helpful IEPs, individual education plans, that are data-driven and targeted. She is wonderful at gathering and getting academic, social, and behavioral data. She utilizes a check-in, check-out system that is the best I have ever seen. Sherry works with district staff to ensure she is on the cutting edge of her craft. She has recently jumped in the deep end of work skill development for those students that are not college bound. Another important fact about Sherry is she has adopted or is in the process of adopting, and well, it's not that, I think it's adopted. It's not even processed anymore because this is an old one. 5 children who are the biological children of one of her former foster daughters. Her home is full of children. She is ever doing good because she can. At a time in her life that she could have chosen to take it easy, she is doing the work of 2 people. Wells Combined School is very lucky to have her, and I highly recommend her for the award. I misspoke. There were not 3 nominations. There were 2. So I am done reading those. But yes, super emphatic echo to all of that. Sherry is a tireless worker and is an amazing advocate for those students. And Sherry and I butted heads a couple times on a few little things, but all in the name of doing good for kids. And it's obvious where her heart is and what she does. She loves not only her kids or her foster kids or her adopted kids, but all kids. And Sherry's amazing. So it was great to go see her a couple weeks ago, and congratulations again, Sherry. And before I relinquish, I do need to say also thank you to our sponsors, Leanne's Floral Designs, Maverick Gaming, the Rotary Club of Elko Desert Sunrise, and the S.T.A.R. for helping supply the goodies for all of our winners each month. We really appreciate them, putting their money where their mouth is in supporting our staff. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to our sponsors. And Sherry, just as I mentioned with Katie, we will get to Wells and be able to thank you in person as well. And hopefully as we're driving back and forth on Interstate 80, we can take the opportunity to stop in and see you as well. So thank you very much. And if we can get Stephen and Laura to come back up here, we'd like to shake your hand. Thank you very much again, and we appreciate our teachers and our staff that do so well to support our students and the rest of our staff and us as well. You guys truly are stars, and we appreciate you all. Thank you. At this time, we're going to move to 1.08, which is to receive a presentation from Eide Bailly regarding the 2023 financial statements. This is listed as a non-action item. However, we do need to have this as an approval. So we're going to allow Ms. Terry Gage with Eide Bailly to present this, and at a future date, preferably the very next meeting, we will go ahead and put this most likely on consent agenda or something else so that we can accept the presentation and the audit findings.
The June 30th, 2023 audit report. Hopefully you have a bound copy there in front of you. We're going to go through it pretty quickly. I'm just going to highlight certain items that I think are important for you to be aware of. I'm more than happy to take questions as we move along. Just kind of stop me if, like I say, I'll go very quick because I know it's a 200-page document. You don't want me going through every page, I'm sure. I'm also more than happy, anybody on our team. I know it's a lot of information in an audit report to sit down with anybody individually and go through it, answer questions, because I know this is a lot of information, and I'm an accountant, so it's, it's sometimes easy for me to understand, and for others, you kind of got to, walk through that accounting lingo and to do that. And I'm more than happy to talk with anybody. Okay, bound audit report. We're going to turn to page 1, which is a couple of pages back after the table of contents. So this is your audit opinion. I'm very happy to say you have what we call an unmodified audit opinion. So that's the highest level that can be achieved. It basically says your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects as of June 30th, 2023. Exactly the kind of audit opinion you would want to see. The audit opinion does list on page 1 on page 2, your responsibilities for this audit report and our responsibilities. So these are your financial statements. We basically just give you an opinion on these financial statements. You've provided us all the information then that we can give our opinion on. There were a few corrections that we made to the prior year audit report. We call them prior period adjustments, and I'm going to go through those in just a few moments. In our audit, we focus on major funds, so the larger funds of the district. Your general fund is always a major fund. The other funds, we look at, we calculate a materiality level, and we look at how large they are in proportion to all the funds of the district. And we also, there's certain funds that are very important to the district, maybe for political reasons, for you just want to monitor it. Like some people made all their ARPA funds a major fund, like your capital improvement fund, your pay-as-you-go. As you watch what that is, it might not be material, but you might want to just watch it so you could make it a major fund. So our statements kind of focus on that major fund level. You do have 4 major funds: the general fund, the special education fund, the federal fund, and the capital improvement pay-go fund. All right, we're gonna turn to page 15, please. So page 14, 15, it's a facing page. We'll start on 14 first. Page 14 is your statement of net position. Very similar to a balance sheet, starts off with assets less liabilities equals your net position for the district. You actually have a negative net position of $32.7 million. Don't worry, it's okay. These front statements are full accrual. So we bring on your net pension liability and your other post-employment OPEB liability. So many entities your size, once you bring on those 2 items, it puts your net position in a deficit fund balance. So that's very normal within the state of Nevada. For example, your net pension liability is $152 million. So you all know we pay in PERS each month as you go, but PERS also calculates an actuarial report at the end of the year. And you have to bring on that liability onto your financial statements when you're full accrual. So every local government in Nevada does that. So it adds $152 million liability to your books, which is what is the biggest part of your deficit net position. Some of your changes this past year is cash and investments did go up about $3.3 million from their previous fiscal year. Your capital asset additions went up about $5.4 million in additions. You purchased quite a few buses this past year. You had some equipment and some technology equipment for about $2.2 million. You finished that South Spring Creek gas conversion project. You had asphalt repairs, you had boiler upgrades. So all of that equated to about $5.4 million. All right, we are going to go to page 35. On page 35, we're getting into your notes to your financial statements. I want to review a couple of the notes that are important. The bottom of page 35, we call this note 2. This is your compliance with Nevada revised statutes. One of the things as auditors that we're required to test is your compliance with NRS's and Nevada Administrative Code. When we do that, we look at your budget over expenditures. So you did have several functions where you overexpended the budget. Common in an entity your size. Sometimes, we budget the best that we can, but sometimes at the end of the year, you just don't get all of the changes. And so you did have several functions that had over expenditures. 2 of those were in the general fund. One was in your co and extracurricular programs by about $39,000. Your vocational programs by about $279,000. Your E-rate funds overexpended by about $261,000. On this one, you did transfer funds over because you knew it was going to be a deficit, but nobody changed the budget to augment. So that's what caused E-rate. Your PCFP English learner and at-risk were over $327,000 and $336,000. And then your state grants fund, it was a small over expenditure of $3,534. And your self-insurance fund, that actually overexpended by about $642,000. As we get further back in the statements, I do want to kind of go over a few things in the self-insurance fund that I think you have been really working on in the last few months to try to increase the revenue in that fund to cover those expenses. So we'll talk about that one here in just a few minutes. Going on to page 36, you did have 3 funds with deficit fund balances. So that was the English Learner Fund and the At-Risk Fund. They had a $327,000 deficit ending fund balance and a $336,000 deficit. And then your self-insurance fund did have a $2.5 million deficit ending fund balance. We also noted that there were several funds that had deficit cash balances at the end of the year. And when you have a deficit cash balance, basically one fund is borrowing from another fund. You are technically supposed to, under Nevada Administrative Code, you're supposed to get have a resolution adopted by the board to approve an interfund loan. So there were several funds that the interfund loan did not get approved for these deficits. So we included that as a violation. All right, now we're going to turn to page 40. On page 40, this is your capital asset footnote. I talked about, we had some corrections to the prior year financial statements. One of those was related to capital assets. We have what we call a prior period adjustment. So we adjust your prior year ending fund balances or net position. What we noted is there were several large projects that were included in capital assets, but they were in construction in progress. So they were at the top part of that footnote. They were already in service and they should have been depreciated each month. And they were not properly put down between construction in progress into buildings or buildings and improvements. And depreciation wasn't taken on those. So we had $78 million in capital assets that were sitting in construction in progress that weren't properly reclassed down to another category. One of those was the Performing Arts Center. One was this Elko High Science Building, Liberty Peak, and several upgrades. So this went back to 2019. And so, like I say, that amounted to $78 million. And then there was about $2.7 million in depreciation, and that wasn't recorded. So that's probably the biggest difference that you would see that ended up causing a prior period adjustment. All right, now I'm going to go to page 56 and 57. This is our prior period adjustment footnote that starts at the bottom of page 56 and goes on to page 57. So the biggest number on that is that capital assets that we were just talking about. There was $75,000 in the capital improvement fund, so the Payable fund, of investment earnings that were not properly recorded in the prior year. And then there was a $1.7 million interfund due from different funds between the general fund and the pay-as-you-go capital improvement fund that was recorded that we couldn't find any support for. And we think it was going back several years for the investment earnings relating to the pay-as-you-go fund. Usually you guys have your audit that is done much sooner than Elko County. And from what we could tell, going back several years, if Elko County had a adjustment through their audit process for your pay-as-you-go funds, that wasn't making it into your audit report because it was done after yours was already issued. So I think that was a big piece of this $1.7 million. And it ended up creating an interfund loan between the general fund and the Payable fund. So we adjusted that to actual. So those were your 4 different prior period adjustments that we recorded. Now I just want to spend a few minutes and highlight some of your more significant funds. The most significant fund is your general fund, and that actually begins on page 58. And the last page of that is on page 61, and that's what I wanted to go over. So your general fund is your main operating fund of the district. At the end of the year, the general fund had an ending fund balance of $9.9 million. This was up $5.5 million over what you had budgeted. And it was down $5.1 million from the previous fiscal year. Your current year revenues were about $106 million. That was about $1.4 million over budget. And it was $12.1 million over the prior year. Your expenditures were $103 million. It was $2.6 million under budget, and it was $6.4 million over the prior year. In the governmental accounting arena, we like to see your ending fund balance to be no less than 8.3% of your expenditures. And everybody says, where are you getting that 8.3%? That's 1 month. So you want to make sure you have enough cash basically in the bank to run for at least 1 month. So we don't like it to get below 8.3%. You were at 9.6%. So still, you know, a nice size ending fund balance. But if we take all of those deficit cash balance or deficit fund balances in your other funds, if you took funds out of the general fund to fund those deficits, you would be down to about 6.5% ending fund balance. If, like I say, if you transferred monies over and funded those deficits. So I just recommend that you closely monitor in your budget process, that ending fund balance, where you're at, making sure that, you know, you stay within that range that the state likes to see. And I know that gets really hard to do, especially with how your funding sources come in now, but just to keep that in mind, and that 8.3% is like what we want to see. And I know the state doesn't like you to get below the 4.4%, below 4%, because then they look at, you know, they look at other factors and look at, do you have some sort of corrective action plan that you would need to implement to try to get that ending fund balance back up there where you should be. All right, any questions? I know I'm going fast. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, page 73. So page 73, this is your capital improvement fund, pay as you go. And I just wanted to point out really quick on that, at the end of, as of June 30th, 2023, there was 15.6, almost $15.7 million in pay as you go. And I know tonight you're probably approving some projects, and I know you've had projects over the last 6 months that you're approving that will start to use up those pay as you go funds. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, now we're gonna go way back. Page 92. So self-insurance fund. So this was the fund I probably had the most pause over, where we just really need to watch where you're at in this fund. I know you have increased rates in the last 6 months. You've also looked at other areas to improve the financial position of this fund. But so at the end of 23, you're at a $2.5 million deficit. Your accounts payable, so your claims incurred but not reported. So those would be all your health insurance claims that you were responsible for as of June 30th, 2023, but weren't paid until 23-24. They were $2.8 million. So basically this fund is on a cash basis. You're funding it as you need that cash, because your negative net position is basically your accounts payable that was going to go out the next year. I just encourage you to closely monitor this fund. Make sure that you're looking at rates every year. In just a moment, we're going to get into some of our audit findings we had were related to this fund. And we had noticed that as management was trying to improve this fund, they had transfers that were going basically from the general fund into this fund. Those transfers got recorded as premiums instead of like a transfer in, transfer out. And what happens when you do that is you as a board don't get a notice or see and make those decisions on, hey, do we have a problem with our rates? Are we charging enough premiums to go into this fund? So one of our recommendations is, you know, those transfers were put into premiums. Keep those separate and show it as a transfer in, transfer out, or an interfund loan, because then you as a board can make a decision on, do we need to look at rates? Do we need to look at the plan? Do we need to, you know, look at other factors that we can change to help improve the position of this fund? All right, page 108, we're almost done. Page 108 and page 109 is your schedule of federal awards. So the district expended $17.6 million in federal funds this past year. Prior year was 16.1 million, so up about $1.5 million. So you receive quite a bit of federal funds. We perform what we call a single audit, and we look at a materiality level of the programs that you receive, and we ended up auditing 5 of your programs as major programs this past fiscal year. So we covered 74% of your funds in our audit. In just a moment, I'm going to review with you just a couple of findings that we had. You had 2 findings out of $17.6 million in federal funds. So I think that's pretty amazing. I have other entities that have many more findings than that. So as we go through the findings, that happens in every entity, and we just work to correct them going forward. So just kind of keep that in mind. So speaking of that findings, beginning on page 112. So as part of the audit process, if we end up having control deficiencies or we find an adjusting journal entry, so that's where we found something wasn't properly recorded, we have to include it in our audit report if it's material. So for example, our materiality in our general fund is $800,000. So if something's under $800,000 as an auditor, I can still give you a clean opinion because I'm below that materiality level. So, or we would be here forever and be looking at everything, and nobody wants an audit to go on forever. So we had several findings that we recorded. The first one, beginning on page 112, was relating to your cash reconciliations. I know the district has had some difficulties reconciling the cash per the bank to the cash per the accounting system. The cash per the bank is higher, which is a good place to be. You don't want it to be the opposite way. So it had about a $600,000 difference. So if you took the cash for the bank, it was $600,000 than what the accounting system said. And I know staff were working to get those differences corrected and to make sure that the accounting system is talking within each other correctly. I think sounds like that there have been a few issues going back a couple of years in dealing with the software system and making sure that when you have cash in a fund ledger, that it's all properly accounted for. So I know that they're continuing to work through this problem. So that was our first item. Second item, like we had already went through, we had a prior period adjustment relating to investment earnings in the capital improvement fund that we recorded $75,000. The prior period adjustment for the capital assets for the $74 million that wasn't put into service correctly. We talked about this for a moment. We had a prior period adjustment for $1.7 million for the interfund transfers between the PAYGO and the general fund. We had $1.4 million in capital outlay that wasn't shown as a capital asset addition this year. So we corrected that. There were 2 items that were reported as unavailable revenue, which is like deferred revenue, that were relating to FY24 that we corrected. They shouldn't have been recorded through FY23. We talked about the interfund loans. Those weren't correctly recorded. I think when those deficit cash balances for those interfund loans were recorded, it was accidentally recorded as a transfer in, transfer out versus an interfund loan. And the health insurance fund, you had 2 advances. One was for $1 million and one was for $761,000. And those were put into premium revenue, premium expense. So they really weren't part of premiums. So those were the journal entries. Most of these were all relating to year-end type transactions, not your day-to-day transactions. So next item on page 113, this schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So that $17.6 million in federal awards. We did note that one program was understated on that by about $1.5 million that we corrected. And so 2 findings relating to the single audit. First one was relating to the child nutrition cluster, which is your school breakfast program and your national school lunch program, where we picked a sample of time cards. And out of that sample, we had sample of 40, we had 5 where there was not an approved time card. So that happens sometimes. So we're just saying, try to improve that time card process, make sure that they're approved. So you have an allowable cost relating to it. Second finding, this was probably more pervasive and went across several programs. So it was relating to procurement, suspension, and debarment. It was included for your special education cluster, your child nutrition cluster, and your COVID-19 funds, where one of the federal requirements when you get federal funds is to ensure that you go through proper procurement procedures. And that also includes ensuring that those vendors aren't suspended or debarred. And we found across the board in all of these programs where you, if an item was under $10,000, you're not required per NRS to go out to bid, but under federal funds, you still have to get quotes and you have to document those quotes and have policies and procedures to make sure that you're retaining that information. And then you have to make sure that that vendor is not a suspended or debarred party. And that wasn't done in many of these instances. This is probably my most common finding in every local government that I do. They miss those procurement requirements for those smaller items that fall below that NRS requirement. So common finding. And I think Cassie's already implemented procedures to correct that months ago. So hopefully that is all taken care of. That is it for the audit report. The only other item I had was, I call it the letter. This is a required auditor communication that we are to present to the board. What's included in this communication is what we just went through. I have to discuss what our audit findings were. I have to discuss what our compliance issues were in the financial statements. I have to discuss what our significant estimates are, net pension liability, other post-employment benefit liability, and it just puts it in a narrative form for this letter. I know that was a lot. I am more than happy to entertain any questions. I want to thank you. I want to thank the staff. A lot of time and effort goes into the audit. It's not an easy process. Nobody likes to be audited, and everybody here worked very, very hard to be able to put this together. So I do thank everybody. Matt, you had to have a question for me. I know you have to.
I appreciate your time. And I appreciate the board's time. Additionally, the bound copy we just received this evening, the letter we also received this evening. So the board has really not had an opportunity that I'm aware of to be able to review the documents. And that's not trying to cast blame or anything. It's just a statement of a fact of where we are. So I'm sure at the next meeting, we may not put this on as a consent agenda because I'm sure there probably will be questions. But if you can be prepared or someone from your team can be prepared to answer questions, that would probably be best.
Absolutely. And I believe the PDF went out to everybody a couple of weeks ago. And I know the audit report was picked up over a week ago. And I apologize. I thought that was provided to everybody. So I completely understand.
We've had some changes as well.
Yes.
Over the past number of years.
We'll do what we have to do and like I said, I'm happy one-on-one to answer any questions as well. I know sometimes that's easier. It's a lot of information in a large document. So.
Yes, thank you.
I know.
So with that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Any additional questions or statements from the board at this time?
I don't have a question, but thank you for your thoroughness and putting everything together and everybody else that helped. I know it's a difficult thing, but personally, I'm glad we have an audit so that things can be found and corrected and taken care of. So I appreciate it.
Just FYI, our entire audit team is starting the single audit for fiscal year 24 and will be on site next week and in one of the conference rooms here. So if any of you are on site, want to stop in and say hello, want to ask any questions, we will be here, or a member of the team will be here for sure. So happy to entertain questions at that time as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. If there's nothing else from the board at this point, we will move to 1.09, which is input from the public. This is a non-action item. And this is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in legally noticed closed personnel sessions of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. With that, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we will move to our action items. 2.01 is receipt, review, and possible approval of Edmentum contract for online education services. This was up for possible action. We are tabling this, or at least removing this off of the agenda for tonight, and it will be on a subsequent agenda. 2.02 is receipt, review, and possible acceptance of the bid for Carlin Combined Fire Alarm Upgrade Project in Carlin, Nevada, submitted by Fire Engineering Company Incorporated, and a conditional award of contract to that bidder for possible action. Mr. Stolick, it's all yours.
Answer any questions? Oh, perfect.
Anything from the board and or suggested action?
I move to accept the bid for Carlin Combined School Fire Alarm Upgrade Project by Fire Engineering Company, Inc. Do I need to say, and conditional award the contract to? Oh,
you need to sign in here.
Oh,
Read this one.
I am signed in. I don't know why mine does this. Okay, I move that the board accept the best bid for the Carlin Combined School Fire Alarm Upgrade Project submitted by Fire Engineering Company, Inc. and conditionally award the contract to that bidder, subject to the timely submission to the district legal counsel of all documents required by the instructions to bidders, including 1, the signed contract, 2, proof of required insurance, 3, issued performance bond, and 4, issued payment bond.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded, and thank you very much, Brooke, for reading that legally advised motion. Additional comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. This motion passes. We'll now move to 2.03, receipt, review, and possible acceptance of the bid for Elko High School's junior and senior building heating upgrade project in Elko, Nevada, submitted by Charles H. Chester Plumbing and Heating Incorporated, and a conditional award of contract to that bidder, also for possible action. Matt, I'm assuming you are here for this as well. If there are questions from the board, looks like on this one, we did have 2 bids, and the apparent low bidder was Charles H. Chester.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the board accept the best bid for the EHS Junior and Senior Building Heating Upgrade Project submitted by Charles H. Chester Plumbing and Heating, Inc., and conditionally award the contract to that bidder, subject to the timely submission to the district legal counsel of all documents required by the instructions to bidders, including 1, the signed contract, 2, proof of required insurance, 3, issued performance bond, and 4, issued payment bond.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any additional comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I had a question just regarding, I recognize the name. I believe we used them for, was it the gas upgrades in Spring Creek?
Yeah,
And I was just curious, they performed adequately there?
yeah.
Everything went great?
I think
Yeah.
that's why their bid was actually so low. They did the last remodel
Right.
of that building, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a significant difference between the 2 bids, so it made me curious, but again, I recognize the name and I thought it was from a
Yeah,
project like that, so.
US Mechanical said they were really busy, so that was their really busy price.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Right. So,
Anything else from our board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye for the record as well. 2.04 is receipt, review, and possible acceptance of the bid for Spring Creek High School's entrance paving project in Spring Creek, Nevada, submitted by Acha Construction LLC, and the conditional award of contract to that bidder. This is for possible action. 3 bids came in, and Acha is the apparent low bidder. Anything you want to add on that, Mr. Matt?
no, they came in quite a bit lower, so it was
Okay.
good news.
Comments or questions by the board?
The question I had regarding this one was about, was it last year we did the resurfacing or the ceiling project there, and that also included some repair work to the front. to the entrance area.
Yeah.
Where does this fall in with that?
So this project's going to be a whole, we're ripping everything up, trying to get everything regraded to flow water better, so we're not having these issues.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
was it unsuccessful, I guess, last year? Or?
It failed. The entrance just completely failed, and we just basically try to patch some of those massive holes that were.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Anything else from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll go ahead and move that the board accept the best bid for the Spring Creek High School entrance paving project submitted by Acha Construction LLC and conditionally award the contract to that bidder, subject to the timely submission to the district legal counsel of all documents required by the instructions to bidders, including 1, the signed contract, 2, proof of required insurance, 3, issued performance bond, and 4, issued payment bond.
Second.
Thank you very much. Properly moved and seconded. Anything else from the board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.05 is receipt review and possible rejection of all bids for Spring Creek High School's food science building project in Spring Creek, Nevada. This is for possible action. There were 2 bids that came in on this, and the superintendent is rejecting or suggesting a rejection of these. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Anderson first.
Yeah, thanks. This is a saga at this point with how much we've talked about this project. I just want to give a couple qualifying statements, not trying to be lukewarm on anything, but I feel like this one has a ton of context to it. So I did submit a recommendation to reject. I felt like, well, for 2 primary reasons. Number 1, that is the prevailing sentiment in our internal capital improvement committee, that the committee on the whole doesn't think we should move forward with it for a number of reasons. And then the other one was just from a consistency standpoint. I know that my recommendation to reject the last time was due to the exorbitant overage and between what we anticipated the cost would be and what the actual bid costs were. And as we've seen with a lot of our other projects, the longer we talk about a project, the more expensive it gets. And that's exactly what happened with this one. The bids we rejected 6 months ago came in about $1 million more this time around. 673. I'm not like Matt and I are very different people, and we live in different planes of existence. But it is my understanding that $673 per square foot is a crazy amount of money per square foot for construction right now. However, we only had 2 bidders. We had 4 originally, and 2 of them said, no, thanks. We don't want to bid again on something we just bid on. And the other 2 did bid again, and it came back higher. So for consistency's sake, and the fact that it is over budget is why I have recommended no. However, I do want to say I am not recommending no because I don't think there's any value in providing CTE programs or classroom space. I think there's a lot of value in those things. I have always said that, and it is my understanding that what my job is for the board is to help provide you with information and provide you with recommendations. But it is up to the board to decide what their priorities are. And so I honestly, I knew about the bids about a week before we had to submit our agenda with a recommendation, and I took almost all of that time. Most of the time with these things, I just sign, let's put it for the board. This one I held on to, and Rich Barrow said, CJ, you need to make a choice on how you're going to recommend, because otherwise we're not going to have this on the agenda. So I took my time, and that was my final decision there. But I want you to know that it was splitting hairs for me on whether to recommend or not. So I'm sure that doesn't help you at all. But we have our priorities in our strategic plan. We have our priorities and our goals, but we also have, as we found, we have fiscal concerns. And so those 2 are often at odds with each other. And I think they potentially could be at odds in this situation. And so I just would encourage the board to through your deliberations, think about what is highest priority for you in this scenario and feel good about where you go with it. But I also would say should probably make a decision once and for all on this. Another element to this to keep in mind is, and I know this, but I want to make sure, anyone who's listening, that about $700,000 of the cost, if you were to do the project, is covered through a CTE grant from the state. If we do not move forward with this project, the understanding from them, between me and them, was that we would immediately return those back to them should we say no thanks. And we would have to have it expended by the end of next June were we to move forward with this project and accept those funds. Additionally, there's equipment that would have to be either repurposed or returned as well that we've been holding on to for years. So there's some inevitable fallout with that stuff as well. And I don't know, there's a lot about this and a lot of us are very familiar. So I don't know if there's anything else that's substantive, Matt, that you feel like we need to mention for context, or if any of you want to bring something back up, but I think that's probably all I want to say about it at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions though, and I'm sure Matt will do the same from a technical standpoint of the bids.
First question right here. Why is the bid so high? Why is we getting $672 a square foot? Is there comparable bids that we can look at from other agencies or other things? I mean, I'm trying to understand why this number is coming in so high. Doesn't make any sense.
I'd say it's our location, Elko, the amount of bidders we had bid on this project. They're seeing in cost or cost of steel going up quite a bit. And I think a lot of, and actually, and on this project, the first phase, they missed a bunch of dirt work. And so they caught it the second go around. So that was another increase of, I think, of $250,000. So
I think part of my concern here is that we paid a significant amount of money to a engineer who has made cost recommendations. About $400,000, correct? In engineering on this project has been spent.
I don't know the exact number, but yeah,
I'd
right in
roll
there.
with that. I
Yeah.
think it's about that, but
Okay.
I'm wondering if there's any recourse there with the money we spent to have them tell us that it's going to cost X amount, and then now we're looking at what, double? And that just doesn't seem, that leaves a bad taste with me, in that we've outlaid $400,000 for a professional recommendation and it hasn't come back correct at all. Another problem I have with this is that we're leaving, $1 million in equipment about, right?
No, the equipment's about 130,000, I believe.
Significantly more than that.
I feel pretty good about that number. Yeah, it's about $130,000 of equipment and then about 700 plus of grant funds.
No, there was a.
No, it's a significant amount.
I
It's
know
not
restaurant equipment, man, and it
$130,000.
wasn't
There's no way.
$100,000.
We've been talking about this for like 2.5
Yeah,
years.
there was
I'm with
walk-in
Jeff.
fridges and.
Yeah, all the equipment for it.
Yeah, it's way more than
It was-
100,000.
It was only around 100 for all the equipment that we have already.
And I miss a lot, but I'm not gonna miss $700,000.
We have a pile of equipment, right? Yep. That's in a warehouse that we're gonna have to pay to send somewhere if we don't use this.
Comics, yep.
Yeah.
Could you said that the 673 is really high. What is like a typical right now?
Probably closer to like high fives, different areas. I mean, up in Idaho, it's 340. So, but they don't have prevailing wage and different things like that. So
I feel like we've played deal or no deal. You know how they have that on the island thing? We missed opportunities from before. I'm like, dang, we should have taken that.
So just to clarify, Matt, and pardon for interrupting or interjecting, Susan, the 672 is Nevada Public Works. Sorry, let me back that back out. The high five that you had just mentioned, the high $500 per square foot is Nevada Public Works projects, correct?
Yeah, projects that are happening in Elko County. Yeah. You know, because you're going to get different.
Private or public?
Public.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the public, the reason I'm asking that is because the prevailing wage is a big factor of potentially 30% of an increase when you compare a private build to a public build. And our legislature continues to say we're wanting to support special interests over students by allowing prevailing wage to continue. So that's why I just want to make sure that we're looking at apples to apples. So we're about $80 per square foot high for this project comparatively.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, not crazy out, but it's still a very high number, 673. So
18% or so.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the alternatives then. So base bid is what our main project, and then the alternative 1 and 2. I can't recall.
Okay, so what we did, the first time we bid it, we just had one bid alternative, and that was the fire sprinkler system. And so we just left that alone, did that as our bid 2. And then to kind of maybe help, figure some of this stuff out, we took all the modulars, all that, and into another bid alternate. So that like 1.2 million is setting the 4 modular trailers and all the infrastructure with that and remodeling them.
So the base bid is the primary
for the building itself.
For the building.
Yes.
And then alternate 1 is a sprinkler system off?
Yeah. Fire sprinkler system for the food science building.
But that was the first bid, correct? This bid, alternate 1, is the modulars.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. Thank you.
So we couldn't technically build the building without doing the fire suppression sprinkler system. So we would have to include that cost in, wouldn't we?
No, it'll have a fire alarm system. We just did it just to kind of see, and then we talked to the insurance company to kind of see if it would pay off to have it, and it's just a wash. So we wouldn't do it with the fire sprinkler system.
So we need to do the base bid or the base bid and number 2 alternative to move forward then, but number 1 is out.
Because I mean, up to you guys, right?
No, I'm just trying.
But I don't think it would be worth our money to put a fire sprinkler system in there.
Okay, so we don't need the alternative 1 then in there.
We just left it.
You don't need alternate 2 either. That's up to you. If you just want to do the physical building, or if you want to have the classroom portion with the modulars.
Okay.
Which the modulars obviously it's like one big project, but the modulars are for additional classroom space because of the documented enrollment increases and overcrowding in Spring Creek's classrooms. So that the modulars are for that, and the CTE, the food science building, is to be able to have an additional CTE program there.
So is it possible to just do alternate number 2, just do this modular portion of the project?
It's a great question.
I think we would we'd have to double check with Rich.
I don't think we can because that's not what they bid.
No.
I mean, I get that they bid as an alternate, but
I think the base bid is the primary.
Yeah. And then the rest are extras.
Is this a time of year thing? If we were trying to do this later on, or
No.
I still don't see what have we done to encourage bids on this? Because we have the same 4 companies, now we only have 2. I know we had this additional tool for bids that we talked about. It went on that, right?
Demand Star.
Yeah, we put on that and it yielded nothing. Yep.
Have we actually approached anybody and said, hey, would you like to bid on this? Is that something we can do?
I think we reached out to quite a few people, even contractors in Reno, and so we didn't get We got two.
What's the consequence of rejecting these bills? It just sits and then it basically dies, or what's the consequence of this? I'm just asking in general.
As far as I'm concerned, the consequences of rejecting these are we return the grant money. We have to find out what our obligation is with the equipment. Are we allowed to utilize that elsewhere? Does it have to be returned? My guess is it's going to have to be returned because it was awarded for a specific project. We would hold on to design plans and those would sit in our possession. I think there's probably some unknown but likely long-term consequences, like we were awarded grant stuff and then didn't do anything with it. So makes us maybe seem like we did something wrong there. Yeah, those are the
and then the
consequences off the top
consequence
of my
of
head.
not having additional space for our students.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. That's a very obvious one, is we're still overcrowded at Spring Creek and still in need of elective classes as you are overcrowded. So
Could you elaborate a little more for us, Mr. Anderson, on the concerns that the Capital Improvements Committee had?
Sure.
And while you're preparing on that, my understanding is Capital Improvements Committee has at no point have they been in favor of this. And I don't mean that to mean, to be, oh, they didn't like it. My understanding is at no point did they say, yes, this is something that we think should be moved forward. Am I correct on that?
I would not say that is accurate. I would say at the very beginning, the fact that it made its way onto our capital improvement plan made it, but that was very early in the stages of our capital improvement committee. Like that was probably one of our first meetings was to put that together. But basically since the bids came in back in the fall and up through now, that's been the case. So the most recent sentiment has been that. So Brooke is on that committee. And so if she'd like to chime in, she can too, but I kind of summed it up into three, as I call them, prevailing concerns. The first is that it's very expensive for what you're getting. And $673 per square foot is very high. I've already said that. Another feeling in the group is that it should not, and maybe these last two kind of go together, but it should not be given this high of a priority, given the basic needs that exist at other campuses from a heating, air conditioning, floor, concrete, and basic issues in order for school to function. And again, this kind of is connected, but also different in some ways, in that it was not immediately cited as one of the highest suggested priorities in our independent third-party MGT report. And to say all those things, those are the reasons why, but it would be false to assume that that also means that those people are not in favor of CTE programs and that those people don't care about Spring Creek's student population situation. It's just as you are going to be tasked with making a decision, other people, weighing the pros and cons and what they feel like is the right thing to do. That was the kind of, those are the main reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, in fact, many of them stated how amazing this project would be and that they would love to have something like that come to Spring Creek. They just feel like right now with our funds and with other needs that are in the district, should not be at the top of the priority list. And that there are other things that need attention worse.
Was that determination made before or after we knew that we had 700-ish thousand in grant money towards it?
We met with this committee like within the last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe something like that. So yeah, we know.
That question came up just because of the reference to the MGT study and all that before, and that obviously would have been before.
Oh, sure. Yeah. MGT. Sorry, I thought you meant the committee's opinion. The MGT study.
No. I know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just was curious for the committee's determination if they had considered that.
Also, I want to say the very first meeting that we had as a committee on that, there were things that were kind of discussed, but then our capital improvement our
Plan.
plan was due. And so that was thrown together. And then the next meeting we had, it was kind of like the first time it was really discussed and people were kind of asking why certain things were on there. So I'm going to be honest and say that the committee that we had didn't necessarily come up with or approve everything that was on that list. It was because of the timing of everything, it was kind of looked at afterwards, after it was already put in place. And it was kind of like, well, this is what's on our list and how do you guys feel about it? And once they were able to look into other things and we were able to talk about things a little bit, from that point on, they were all in agreement that this was not a project that should be moved forward on.
I'd just say I'm disappointed by the whole process. This is a project I'm in support of. I'm still in support of. But the hoops, the stuff we're having to go through to get bids and to get these crappy bids, it's just doesn't seem right. I don't know how else to elaborate on that. It just doesn't seem we should be getting better bids than this.
But I just want to put in perspective that this project started at $28 million. I'm just saying, it started at $20 million, even at 4 point whatever, we've asked the person in charge of this. We've asked these people in charge of it to decrease exponentially. I understand 673 square feet seems expensive right now. But this is the things that we have. I'm actually going to bring up something I've handed to the board. It was a spreadsheet I put together. And it looks at, because there's a couple different things with CTE. It looks at expenditures with CTE enrollment throughout these states. These are the top 10 states in the nation and where Nevada sits on its spending. We've got per pupil funding on there, the percent of taxpayer income, because that comes up all the time. How much money is the community spending? Ranking in education, federal funding, how much they actually get from the federal government, and then the spending difference at the end of each year. These are all current, where they sit, and then approximate state population, so you can kind of get a reference of the amount of people in each state. Now, that's all just statistics to help you out. The next thing that I'm told is that we as a board need to be more, we need more of the data. So decided to find more data on CTE. And why am I talking CTE? Because the basis of this program is CTE. So monetarily, we've asked them to decrease it. They've decreased it down to about a third, fourth of the price. You guys are mathematicians more than I am. And then the effects of CTE. So these are actual studies. The dates are next to them. They range anywhere from 2016 to 2024. 2024 is actually a systemic review, which means we looked at multiple studies. So the studies, I'll just quote a couple of them. 2018, all estimates suggest that participation in high quality CTE program boosts the probability of on-time graduation, a problem Nevada suffers from high school by 7 to 10% points higher for, by 7 to 10% point for higher income students and suggestively larger effects for their lower income peers and students on the margin of being admitted to oversubscribed schools. Next study in 2016, nevertheless, multiple studies have found that CTE has a positive association with wages and employment after high school, something that is on the wall over there, students prepared for the future. Excuse me. Hollenbach and Hank, which is a study in 2014, found that the secondary CTE participants earned higher wages during and after participation and were 10% points more likely to be employed than non-participants at 1 year after exit, excuse me. Male students, 2021, male students are 10% points more likely to graduate from high school and have a half a semester less time enrolled in college. 2024, actually, I'll also save that for last. U.S. Department of Education, 8 years after their expected graduation date, students who focused on career and technical education courses while in high school had higher median annual earnings than students who did not focus on CTE. Again, CTE is the future, and when you understand that, that's why this would be an easy decision. Now, what we know about the impact of career and technical education is Systemic Review of Research 2024, brand new research. Overall, CTE participation appears to be positively impact a number of secondary level outcomes, including high school completion, a problem Nevada suffers from, increased enrollment in two-year colleges, and positively impacts the likelihood of employment after high school. We found no statistically significant negative impacts of CTE participation. High school CTE can be effective anti-dropout program that motivates graduates to continue their education in community and technical college and or prepares them for immediate employment. That's what we're here for. We just dropped $1 million on upgrades, and I understand we're short on money, but this is a project that seems to be pretty straightforward. We have stuff there. Okay. I looked at studies for the effects of parking lots on student outcomes. I didn't find any. However, I did find this in 2017, the link between school environments and student academic performance. We found that schools with more trees had a higher percentage of proficient and advanced scores in mathematics and reading standardized tests after controlling for school size, student-teacher ratio, free lunch environment. However, not all types of landscapes have the same beneficial properties. Large expanses of land, featureless landscapes, including large areas of campus lawns and athletic fields, have negative effects on academic performance. So if we're talking academic performance, we should be talking about trees and parks around our schools, as opposed to whether we can afford a CTE program that we already have a third of it done, and it's a third of the cost when it originally started. Another one on landscapes, student performance in high school landscapes. The analysis revealed consistent and systemically proven relationships between nature exposure and student performances, specifically views with greater quantities of trees and shrubs from cafeteria as well as classroom windows are positively associated with standardized test scores. Again, a problem that Nevada suffers from. Graduation rates, another one. Percentage of students planning to attend a four-year and fewer occurrences of criminal behavior. So here's the deal. I've given you stats, and we're continuing to go over this. We dropped $1 million in about 20 minutes on stuff. Now, granted, some of it's safety and we need to upgrade it. But if we're talking about student outcomes, $80 more a square foot shouldn't be a big deal. I'll rest my case.
I'd also add too, that we're getting real close to that 2.7 we were originally expecting. If you add that from the base bid, subtract the grant, we're right there. We're looking at these going up. I'm for it too.
Could I ask our student representative if you have any comment? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you don't, that's fine too.
I was thinking stuff anyway. I do like the idea of a food science building at our school. Sometimes feels crowded and crammed, and there's a lot of classrooms that don't seem like they fit what they're being used for. And I don't know how the budget works or anything like that, but if it was just up to us and the students at the school and the teachers, I think it would be super beneficial for us. So,
thank you.
Are you involved in any CTE programs? Or maybe, yeah, I'm sorry, maybe you don't know. Not sure if you're familiar with what is and isn't CTE, but
no, I'm not involved in any. No.
Ag business, nothing like that.
I did take ag my sophomore year.
Okay.
But yeah, but I know a lot of kids that take ag science, a lot of kids that take foods, business classes, a lot of my friends. So yeah.
And Spring Creek does have phenomenal CTSOs. Whenever I'm reading the list of national qualifiers and things like that, Spring Creek usually shows up. And it's actually in my superintendent's report tonight. We have quite a few successful kids in those programs. So
yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot as well. I appreciate you answering.
Do you have any input regarding either of these two construction companies that have either of them worked for us in the past? Do we have any?
MGM built Performing Arts building, science building, quite a bit of buildings for us. And Shell Creek, I don't know if, I know them, but I don't know if they've built anything really big for the school district, but they've done little projects.
Jeff, MGM is also building or retrofitting the building for the charter school as well right now.
And the college.
And the college, yes, on the college as well. They have a project there.
Yeah.
You know, to steal something from what you said earlier, do you think these are were busy bids?
I think so. So just that MJM's got a lot of work going on right now. Shell Creek's doing, when I talked to them, I think they were doing a lot of work in Reno area. So could be
Okay.
kind of their busy price as well.
The difference between the two is small enough for me, little less than 100,000, that it's kind of, if I were to pick one, for me, it'd be somebody we worked with. Unless anybody has something to add, I
Well,
want
and
to
then when
make a
you add
motion.
in the alternate, MGM actually is low bid when you look at
Understood.
total. Correct. Teresa?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have been in favor of this project since it was $20 million. This is a project that I think is beneficial to our students. It is beneficial to Spring Creek High campus. It can potentially offer opportunities for students. You know, if we really are looking at how do we offer more opportunities for kids, you know, can we offer virtual classes from these classrooms to other campuses? I think this project has a lot of potential, and I am all about providing opportunities for kids. And Josh brought up a lot of things I've been thinking about. You know, yes, we want nice parking lots and entrances to our schools. And we didn't have any discussion really about, yeah, should we fix these parking lots or, you know, fix the entry to the school? And we spent a lot of money just now. This is not that much more to provide opportunities for students. So, like I say, I just have held back for a few minutes while everybody talked, but I am totally in favor of moving forward with this project. I know it's expensive. It is not going to get cheaper. We kind of put it off hoping it would be cheaper, and it's not. And hanging on to this and hoping we can get a better bid at another point, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think if we're going to prioritize student achievement, improving graduation rates, you know, providing opportunities for kids, this is something that the board can put their money toward, where we can provide opportunities for students in our district. So I am totally in favor of continuing with this project, and instead of rejecting the bids, looking at which one we could accept.
And I just want to add to what you said too. I think getting something like this also gives us more opportunity to get more grant funding. And I know Heather works very hard at doing all those things, as well as our CTE instructors. Sometimes you need a place to start so that you can get more and improve on those programs. So that's also a benefit, or could be a benefit.
Additional comments from the board?
I just want to add, I missed a box here. Sorry. I added this. This is actually mine. Okay, so this is me. CD pathway is a way to get local, specialized locally. We continue to talk about how we have a hard time bringing people in. This program is a way to get people in. I have plenty of ranchers that come into my office that can't find somebody that's going to process their meat. And so part of the food science is that. We have I have plenty of teenagers that don't understand how food works outside of the home. And so this is going to help them through that. So these are different pathways that they can do. This is a potential careers in those different things, as well as we get locals to do it. It's the same reason why some of the other pathways CTE is doing are so beneficial, such as the teaching, the education, the teaching side of it too. So this is another way that we can get locals specialized locally.
I'll also add in that throughout this whole process, this project has been erroneously referred to as many things, such as a slaughterhouse or a meat lab or a meat cutting lab. And it is better and more accurately should be referred to as a food science facility or food science pathway, because there is a lot more, as we know, that goes in. Like, food science is a very big realm. We have a food science expert sitting in the back of the room, and I don't know how much meat cutting and butchering he's ever done. A little bit, but it's much more expansive than just that element of it. And so, say that again. you can get a PhD in food science, right?
I'd just be happy if people
And
know
we
how to
do
take.
have local jobs for food science. So, again, I'm over here just trying to make sure we're accurate about information that's being portrayed.
We can teach kids to pull the membrane off the ribs. I think that'd be a good start. You know, it's just off the cuff, but
I've been kind of holding, go ahead, Teresa, if you have.
I just had one other question as far as one of the items that you said was in this bid was that there was dirt work that needed to be done. I am curious if we could ask some local companies if they would be willing to donate some time to do some dirt work.
It was.
Is that
dirt
possible?
work that was missed in the scope of work for the project. So I believe Highmark Construction was the low on the last one, and then Acha was the one on this one, and that was a big portion of it. So maybe they'd like to donate, but I doubt that would happen, but you never know. So.
And it might not, but it can't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does bring up an interesting topic of discussion. With the Oahe build, we actually they have the Air Force, their civil engineers coming down to do things. Is this something where we can try and see if maybe they want to do some training out with us for this too as well? Is that even feasible?
Well, the Idaho National Guard is the one doing the, right?
Yep.
Up in
Air National
Hawaii.
Guard, yep.
And they're only doing, I think, 10 days worth of dirt work. That's what kind of fit into their schedule. So it would have to be next year probably if they would donate. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just didn't know how the project was working. So that's what I was asking. Is that feasible for us as a district to be able to take part in that? If we find an organization that would like to do that, that has the opportunity to do that, can we participate in that in a project like this?
Yeah, we would have to kind of build it into the project, right?
Okay.
Because these, the general contractor has bid the whole scope of the work, and then we're going to go, no, we're going to take out part of it, but not do all of it.
Yeah.
We're kind of past that, right?
Exactly.
And I understand that. Just the conversation is really more what I wanted to try and make sure.
It was interesting
plants
that
for the
Hawaii
future.
was able to do that. So it wouldn't be bad to see that in the future,
So first, Matt.
Yep.
I think Steven is going to owe you quite a few smoothies or whatever else,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
for
really
sure.
are in the hot seat.
Yeah.
And he picked a really good time to go on
Yeah,
vacation.
I think it was planned,
Yeah.
but no, this.
So this is not, I don't know how to say this without it seeming aggressive, and I don't mean for that, but I am really frustrated with the design processes that we've seen on multiple projects. We don't seem to be getting what we're anticipating, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's because we're not articulating enough as a district what needs to happen. I don't know if the design engineers aren't understanding the total process. I don't like missing $250,000 worth of dirt work. This is the second time it's been bid. I think they've been out to the building, or at least local contractors been out to the site 2 or 3 times. So I'm not really sure what that is, but there's just a lot of frustration there. And it's my understanding that contractors and subcontractors for this building or this project specifically have had design concerns, and that they had to build in higher costs to mitigate some of those unknowns because it just wasn't designed to what they needed. I don't know if that means that we need to start getting with contractors in advance and say, here's what we're looking at, what would be best for you. I don't know if we need to get our design professionals together with potential bidders, if that's allowed. I'm not sure, but I'm just frustrated with that. I appreciate the Capital Improvement Committee's time, and I understand that they have input as well. But I agree with Teresa that I'm still in favor of this. This is not to say that I don't think that the Capital Improvement Committee doesn't know what they're talking about. But as has been mentioned a few times, we have expended a number of funds, of dollars this evening on projects. And so we can continue to repair, replace fire alarms, HVAC, parking lots with nothing to show for our overcrowding. And that will continue until we run out of funds, because that's the reality of where we are. We have a capacity issue. Spring Creek High School is not the first item, I think, on the MGT list, but they're certainly, I think, within the top 3. And when you look at what this builds in addition to that, I think that if I recall correctly, one of the Elko elementary schools or list intermediate schools are, I think, is at the top of the list. And I think we have flexibility and capacity issues where we can rezone. I know that everybody hates that or whatever the term is going to be, but we can say, all right, do we have the right layouts of where we need in our communities? Because we're underutilizing some schools and tremendously overutilizing others. We don't have that option for Spring Creek High School. The option is what happened with me when I liked my education, but I rode a bus for an hour and a half and they shipped my butt over the hill to Elko High School. We built Spring Creek High School for a reason. And that's the only option for Spring Creek High School students is when we've reached capacity, we ship them into Elko. Elko doesn't have that capacity either. So I get that this is not where we want to be, that this is $80 or so higher on what we should be expecting, whether it's because this is a busy bid or, whatever it may be. Teresa said it, we're not going to get this any less expensive, I don't think, and waiting is not the option. So I'm going to start on that or stop on that. Actually, I'm not. When will we devote additional funds to student capacity improvement? If we don't devote funds now, again, we are going to expend all of our funds and have zero to show for student capacity improvement. So I think that's just something that we need to take into account. I appreciate everybody's comments. If there's more comments, love to hear them, but otherwise I think we can also take a pleasure of the board onto where we go. Brooke?
Okay, so I know I've stated my opinions on this several times. I'm going to do it again just because I know a lot of people don't watch all of the meetings. And so if this is their first meeting where they're watching this and hearing about this project, I want everybody to know where I stand on it. When you look at the MGT consulting report, it gives an efficiency rate for capacity utilization for Elko High School, which is at 102. Spring Creek High is at 98. And then Adobe Middle School is at 98. Spring Creek Middle School is at 102. Mountain View Elementary is at 103, Southside Elementary is at 108, and Flagview Intermediate is at 117. So all of those fall in the approaching that I listed fall in the approaching inadequate space, except for Flagview, which is in the efficiency rate of inadequate space. They also talk about how over the next 10 years, they gave a report on how over the next 10 years, they project that the population growth in Elko County will pretty much stay the same, but that we should expect to see about a 2% rise in student population in the elementary school ages, a 4% rise in student population in the middle school aged kids, and then about a 2% population increase in the high school aged kids. And so when you look at those that I just read off, the two highest are Spring Creek Middle School and Flagview Intermediate. And they're the ones that we're supposed to see a 4% increase in student population over the next 10 years. And so I have talked to people from Spring Creek High School. I've talked to people from and teachers from Spring Creek Middle School, and they're saying that they're out of classroom space. So I understand that we do have a capacity issue. And I know that there are no other rooms to put more classes in. And so that is a problem that we need to solve. I think though that we're spending possibly up to $5 million solving a problem at Spring Creek High School with this CTE project when there's possibly more need at Flagview Intermediate and at Spring Creek Middle School, because both of their numbers are higher than Spring Creek High School and are projected to have more growth over the next 10 years. So I would just hate to spend this money on a project and then have issues fitting kids in classes in our middle schools in the next 10 years. We've got with Flagview at 117 and Spring Creek High School is only at 98. And then from talking to teachers, they said, you know, he was talking about education and achievement. And from talking to teachers, like the number one thing that they say will increase education or achievement in education is classroom size. And so if you don't have extra rooms to have another English class, you're going to have classroom sizes that are too large. You're going to have 30-something kids in a class because you don't have another room to send those students into. And so I think the bigger issue that we need to be looking at right now is classroom space, more classrooms for schools. And I'm not so sure that more classrooms at Spring Creek High School should be number one priority. I think that there are two other schools that should be priority ahead of Spring Creek High School. While I love CTE and I completely support CTE and I see all of the benefits and agree with all of the benefits that CTE offers our students, I think that we can continue to push CTE and to support CTE and to make it great in our district without spending as much money as this project is going to cost. And that we can spend these funds in other ways, increasing classrooms in other schools that will benefit more of our student population than this project would.
I just want to address one thing, the population growth. We're not the only, if we're going to look at the whole market here, we're not the only education place in Elko. So both the charter is expanding, which will pick up some of that. And depending on how it goes with the state, the secondary, I don't know if it's going to be considered a charter school or the other, yes, classical academy, with the potential of that can, that'll alleviate some of that too as well. I think the classical academy starts in the lower grades and the charter, is it go to 8th now?
Yeah, the charter's through 8th and the classical academy will start lower, but they intend to go K through 12.
K through 12 eventually. So, so that should eliminate, I mean, it doesn't eliminate it, but it has the potential to absorb some of what we're talking about. I know that the implications of that is the district losing money and those types of things. I'm not rooting for it per se, but the likelihood that we would not lose any students is very low.
And that is something I will say that was discussed in our Capital Improvement Advisory Committee meeting. And the numbers that we put together weren't enough that it would make a big enough dent in those, that it's even a significant enough amount if they took enough of our elementary to middle school aged kids that it wouldn't help enough.
Don't you have the kids that are at Spring Creek Middle are going to go to the high school? So if they're over, Spring Creek High School is going to be over too. And research has said that class size really does not make a significant difference. Teachers may like having a smaller class size, but they really have shown that it doesn't make a difference academically, at least from what I've read.
I would disagree with that. I don't know what study that is, but I would disagree.
That's fine.
So thank you, Brooke. I appreciate that. I'm not understanding why the numbers are that the committee is looking at, because my understanding is the charter school, the Elko Institute of Academic Achievement, is doubling their classrooms. So that would add about 175 students. And I think the classical academy is going to add close to 200. So in itself, that's an extra 300 students, which would be 3% of our total amount, which would absorb the increase for the elementary and high school side. Now, obviously the high school side wouldn't quite be in there, but that may need to be looked at. Maybe we don't know for sure what the academy and or EIA is doing, but just something to consider. And then the other thing that you had brought up that I had a response or a question to is now missing off my notes. Let's see if I can find my notes. Goes actually back to Matt. Sorry to put you on the spot. Do we have any projects right now that are ready to go out to bid that would improve student capacity?
No. I think after we lost pay-as-you-go, we kind of focused on just keeping the doors open, right? So that's why we kind of looked at mechanical upgrades, roofs, you know, different projects like that, because we weren't figuring we had any money to build anything like that. But I think Spring Creek High, if we were going to do something, we should build classrooms there myself. That's what I think.
And looking at what this length of this process has been, we're probably 18 months away if we said go now to find something we could build classrooms with before we could be out to bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing I'd like to add too, I'm going to cover this some more in my board member comments regarding NASB and our legislative efforts, but there's a significant push right now to by all the counties to focus our legislative efforts in the upcoming session towards capital improvements for rural districts. And even Washoe and Clark are on board with that to try and help us out. It's kind of a unified stance. So that's something we're going to be pushing for. Keep that in mind, that we're going to hopefully get some money for these projects. But I also think, I know this is going to sound a little crazy, but with us, we have been very conservative. It's right in the report. This audit that we just read in the first page is showing that we have been very conservative and we have saved our money. I don't think this is going to set us back far enough, but I also think that that might be something they look at and going, well, you still have this much. You don't need anything right now. And I wonder that if holding on to this money for as long as we are might actually be hurting us rather than showing that we have a true need. It's easier to say you have a need when you're out of money than when you're sitting on 15 million. Even though, you know, these projects just blow my mind at what they cost. You know, 15 really isn't much, but if we're down to, I don't know, anyway, just a thought.
Mr. Chair, I am ready to make a motion. Okay. I move that, let me get this all right, that the board accept the best bid for the, should I get all the wording in here right? For the SCHS Food Science Building Project from MGM Construction with including alternate 2. Hold on, I gotta go back to the language here. And conditionally award the contract to that bidder, subject to the timely submission to the district legal counsel of all documents required by the instructions to bidders, including 1, the signed contract, 2, proof of required insurance, 3, issued performance bond, and 4, issued payment bond.
Second.
Additional discussion. So I'm just throwing the question out. I think we can accept any bid we want. We don't have to accept the low bid, correct? Or at least the low base
No,
bid.
you'd have
That
to
would
accept
be
the
the
low
I think
bid.
you have to accept the low bid.
MGM is. the low
Including
bidder.
alternate 2, that is
Yes,
the low bid.
whatever alternates you're going to include,
Okay.
that
And
combined
MGM
has to,
is
and you're correct, MGM
Okay.
is the lowest of those.
Just wanted to double check that. So thank you for that.
And just so you're aware, I know our wording was possible rejection of, but anticipating that this would be the case, I've checked with legal and they believe we're okay to make a motion for accepting, even though rejection was in the wording of the item. So I think we're okay to do that.
I had that question but didn't want to ask it.
You're good. I thought about it about 45 minutes ago, so we're good.
Matt, the alternate 2 includes the existing modular buildings out in the community of Spring Creek, correct? Are they all already on Spring Creek High School's campus?
No, they'll be, they're at Spring Creek Elementary and be transported over there and then remodeled. And so we needed to set 3 more pads, provide electrical, sewer, water, all that.
And the modulars themselves need to be remodeled.
Yeah.
What does it cost to build new or to buy new?
We just kind of got a proposal from US Modular they have like 2 different type of plans, but they're $250,000 to build.
And how many are we building?
We will be setting
Three?
three more over there.
Okay.
And remodeling 4.
We would still need to do the electrical and
Yeah.
and the groundwork and all that still, right? So the modulars themselves, that cost is around $250,000 a piece.
On top of this.
No.
No, this is included.
This is all inclusive, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So this is the whole scope of work.
It's all
was-
in, right? We're not, I don't want to come back in 6 months
The
and
alcohol
say,
package
we need another
got? This is
$500,000.
the
It's just-
premium top shelf package. This is the
So-
lower.
Yeah, so
Is that where-
the what he's talking about is different from what these alternates are. These alternates are what were described before. The mod, and feel free to tell me to shut up if I'm saying something wrong, but the modulars, the 250 million or 250,000 per, that is just for the modular. We would still have to lay the concrete. We would still have, so there is a cost in addition to the 250 per if we were to get them brand new. And
And
I
that
mean,
would
it's a
be-
different project, right?
Sure.
Like if you want to go that way, then you ditch alternate 2, you just take
Right.
the base bid and you'd say, well, let's go that route. And we do yet another bid process for.
And it'd be more, right?
And important note, if you were to go that way, it doesn't impact anything regarding the grant funds because the grant funds were specifically for the for the base bid portion of this. It's not related to the modulars, the grant funds couldn't be used for any of that anyway. So, yeah.
Do you know approximately how much of the alternate 2 in the amount of 1.256 million is remodeling?
I think on the last one, we figured it's probably about $400,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about half of what it would be to buy 3 more brand new ones.
Right.
I will say in our conversation, while it's all speculative, right? And as we've noticed, we can make projections, but that is not what always happens. The first reaction when we saw these as the alternate was, geez, it wouldn't be more than a few $100,000 more just to get brand new ones. Like that was an immediate reaction from all of us. And so it's nice that wasn't going to volunteer that information, but since you're talking about it, that's kind of where our brains immediately went to when we saw that price. And some people would say, why would you spend a bunch of money to remodel old ones that aren't in great shape already? But some would also say, why would we buy more? So depends how you look at it.
So if we wanted to buy new, we would reject alternate 2, go back out to bid for 3 new ones. Or could we say, accept alternate 2 and instead of remodeling, well, no, because that would impact
No,
MGM because MGM wouldn't be able to
I don't
build
think,
new.
right,
Okay.
sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt you. They bid on a certain scope of project. So if we're gonna change anything about that scope, we cannot do anything with that bid. You would have to just ditch that part and if you felt really good about doing the CT portion, you wanted to pursue the modular thing, we just have to just take the base and then forge ahead with another proposal.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments or questions? All righty, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes to approve the project. Matt, again, I think Stephen owes you something there. Thanks for standing up there as long as you have. Appreciate it.
Thank you
And-
for your good answers too.
And thank you
Appreciate it.
for the people that, the other people that are not here tonight. Brooke, thank you for representing the committee and we do appreciate their time. Just went in a different direction tonight. We're now going to 2.06, receipt review and possible approval of proposed changes to policy BCB, board officers. This is for possible action. This was brought up in Hawaii and interestingly, policy BCB existed and was blank, if I recall correctly. So this is technically all new language. And you can see that since our time in Hawaii, there have been a couple of minor changes. Actually, I take this back. This one was in existence. This is not the brand new one. This was in existence. And so this would officially, or in effect, change some of the duties of the responsibilities. It also adds in the ability to electronically sign documents. Mr. Anderson, anything you want to add to that?
Nope.
Move to approve.
Thanks.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, or sorry, any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Next one is BDDE. This is on, I apologize, item 2.07, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy BDE, minutes of board meetings for possible action. This is the one that existed but was blank. This is all new language, and this comes basically straight from our legal department. Any comments or questions? How would the board like to proceed?
Move to approve proposed changes to policy BDDE, minutes of board meetings.
All righty. And any further discussion? Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 2.08 is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy DC, external funding proposals and applications. This is a non-action item as this is before the board for the first time. Just to let you know, CJ and I did discuss putting this on the consent agenda, but because of the extensive changes here, we did want to make sure that the board was aware of this. It doesn't remove any of the responsibilities of the board. It does just change things around a little bit. Specifically, it was indicated that April had to be when the discussion first took place. This is now giving the first quarter for that to happen, and that it also gives a little bit more responsibility back to our administrative staff in seeking that approval before the submission of, whereas before it was acceptance of. So a little bit wordsmithing there, but it is an important distinction. This item does not have a immediate action that's needed by our grants department. So that was the other reason why we decided to put this as a non-action item on the agenda versus putting it through as a consent agenda. In reading that through, are there any suggested changes or any questions from the board before we go to our next meeting when this comes up again? Perfect. All right.
I was just going to add, again, we did consider consent agenda because like it doesn't really change a whole lot of what we do, but there was just so much red and blue on there that it just felt weird to kind of put it on through, because while the actual day-to-day changes aren't substantial, the content, like the body of the policy was so substantially changed that it just felt like, let's just be safe and put it through. But just, if you're wondering what does it all mean, it means very little different from what we're doing already.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, moving on to 3.01. This is our consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Moving on to 4.01, Superintendent's report. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you. It's got a few things to share with you today. And thank you for your discussion on the items today. You guys are great board, great to work with. So kind of a belated report from how our students at the state spelling bee did. We had 4 students all go. We had 4 qualify and 4 that opted to go. Sage, a young man named Sage from Spring Creek Middle, was in there for a little bit. Took 21st place or finished in 21st place. I don't know how to say that better. Andrew Garcia, who I believe was from Flagview, 5th grader. Sorry, Sage is an 8th grader. Andrew Garcia, 5th grader. Also, I think it was a tie for 21st between a bunch of students. A 6th grader from Flagview, Yulia Smith. She ended up going all the way till 12th place. And then my biased favorite student out of the 4, Ariana Anderson, finished in 7th place. So we had kids do very well at the state spelling bee and hopefully had a fun experience doing it. And so congratulations to our little spellers. I actually was silly enough to remind my daughter that something was hyphenated the other day, and she said, I quote, "Dad, I'm a speller." And I said, I'm sorry, I should have known better. She was like, of course I hyphenated it. Why would you ask that? So I was corrected. I was put in my place by young Ariana. All right, got some CTSO results for you. The CTSOs are career and technical student organizations. First I'm going to go through some FFA, and there are so many, as you've heard in the past. I'm going to read those who have qualified for nationals and have big awards. That's not to discredit anybody else, but these are the kids who did exceptionally well. Are in the category, these are from Wells. In the category of meat evaluation and tech, this team placed first and qualified for nationals. Tori Glazer, Marley Dahl, Marcus Uhart, Isaac Gale, and Mason Norda. Their farm business management team also took first. Taylor Glazer, Tori Glazer, Jake Glasscock, Truman Kington, and Spencer Gale. In poultry judging, first place team was Carson Ballard, Gage Ulig, Cameron Livingstone, and Cash Coates. In employability skills, Carolina Johnson was the first high individual. In milk quality and products, first place team consisted of Christopher Burcham, Gage Ulig, Isaac Gale, Spencer Gale, and Adam Easton. In senior floriculture, they were the first place team, Carolina Johnson, Evelyn Walls, Liz Rivera Casas, and Madison Dahl. It's nice that I know all these kids' names. Agricultural Issues Forum got first place, Carolina Johnson, Christina Salazar, Hannah Prescott, Spencer Gale, and Truman Kington. And there were so many other first and second place teams in different categories, but those were not national qualifier situations. As is usual, the Wells FFA kids had 2 to 3 pages of accomplishments. So congratulations to all of them. And even though this isn't bolded, I'm going to read them. The following students received state FFA degrees: Callie Broadshow, Christopher Burcham, Christina Salazar, and Liz Rivera Casas. So congratulations to our always exceptional Wells FFA program. Spring Creek High School, Silver Sage FFA. Kathleen Smith, Nevada State Vice President for the 24-25 year. And Mrs. Albisu received an honorary state degree, and Mr. Albisu, the Outstanding Agriculture Teacher Award. In the category of parliamentary procedure, the following students all qualified for nationals: Riley Pippo, Dally Jensen, Shelby Senecal, Bailey Murnian. Obviously, I don't know these kids as well as I know the Wells kids. Afton Sampson and Ruby Bizzetti. In ag sales, Zane Wines, Leah Smith, Riley Pippo, and Graham Sloan. In conduct of chapter meetings, Olivia Amerigian, Yance Jensen, Heidi Peters, Bailey Brown, Colton Lopke, Nathan Schaffner, and Elizabeth Sorikoff. Stop critiquing. Am I doing okay? You know these kids better than not so good. Okay. Trudging forward, ag mechanics, Highland Burton. I need more like names in Spanish. I kill those pretty well. Ag mechanics, Highland Burton, Zane Wines, Leah Smith, and Wyatt McClard. Agri-Science Fair, Trent Sarman. Officer books, historian book, Dally Jensen. Reporter book, Shelby Senecal. Secretary book, Kathleen Smith. Treasurer book, Afton Sampson, and POA Riley Pippo. I do not know what POA is. Does anybody know what POA is? No? All right. Sure, you're right, but I don't think it applies here. 9 students received state degrees, and they are Bailey Murnian, Trent Sarman, Caitlin Horter, Megan Watkins, Aubrey Dawson, Kathleen Smith, Dally Jensen, Shelby Senecal, and Riley Pippo. And that is Silver Sage.
POA
FFA.
is Program of Activities.
Thank you. Program of Activities. Is that my timer? I'm supposed to stop that. All right. We're moving on to Skills USA. From Spring Creek, Leah Smith got gold in job interview and is moving to nationals, and Nathan Thomas in cabinet making. Gold, going to nationals. We're moving on to FBLA for Wells. The following were all national qualifiers. Oh boy, there's a bunch here. Parliamentary Pro first place team, Isaac Gale, Coulter Runyon, Spencer Gale, Jesse Spear, Truman Kington. In multimedia and website design, first place high school, Cassidy Runyon, Riley Joe Glasscock. Mission and Pledge for Middle School, Aviana Del Rio, Avery Safford, Riley Joe. I don't know if we're missing a last name there or not. Bella Sanchez. Elevator Speech, Middle School, Christo Eggleston. Christo was not in middle school when I was there. He was much younger. That's amazing. Good job, Christo. I just remember, anyway, I have different memories of Christo. He was not so big. Leadership Middle School, Cassidy Runyon. Digital Citizenship Middle School, Christo Eggleston again, and Christo Eggleston yet again in Business Etiquette. So bright future for Christo Eggleston and others in Wells as it pertains to FBLA. And then lastly, FBLA from West Wendover. The following are all national qualifiers: in business communication, Destiny Gonzalez; in healthcare administration, William Martinez; in human resource management, Destiny Gonzalez; in public policy and advocacy, applicable for our purposes, David Rodriguez; securities and investments, David Rodriguez again; supply chain management, Alexis Lara; computer game and simulation programming, now we're talking, Cannon Carter and Jackson Contreras; and client service, David Rodriguez again. Go CTSOs. Those kids did a great job. Congratulations to all of them. I know they're going to be fundraising and doing whatever they can to get these kids to nationals. So congrats to all them on their very, very hard work. And I think I'm just gonna, oh no, I'm not just gonna do anything. We have a lot of, this is the appreciation time of year for school employees. And so since the meeting on the 16th, on April 23rd, which was the following Tuesday, it was bus driver appreciation day. And we sure do appreciate our bus drivers. I'm not including myself in that because I've only done it 5 times this year. So I do not accept appreciation. I just, but it's the everyday ones, the ones that do all the time. And Matt, I know you're out there a lot. So thank you for helping fill in. I don't know, you've probably done more than 5, I'm guessing. Okay, all right. Well, I know I tried to meet with you one day and you were driving a bus. And so yeah. Last Wednesday was school principal day. And I sure do love my school principals. And I know a lot of our staff love their principals too. So thanks to all of them for leading in their respective buildings. Tomorrow is School Nurse Appreciation Day. So thanks to our many school nurses. And this whole week, starting yesterday and going through the end of the week, is Teacher Appreciation Week. And we're having some fun doing some of that stuff. And I want to invite, so any of you, if you'd like to, I can't give away any secrets and surprises. We have several Teacher of the Year awards that are going to be going out. I don't even know if it's reinvigorated. I don't know if Elko County's ever done a Teacher of the Year for the district, but we're doing one this year. And we're also doing 2 STEM Teacher of the Year awards. And so those have been decided to the best of my, I mean, I've been in this town long enough to know that if someone knows and the secret's out, like I'll probably hear about it pretty soon. And I haven't had anyone else come back to me knowing who the answers are. So far the secret's been held down okay. We're hoping it stays that way. But Thursday of this week, we're going to be going to 2 different schools in the afternoon. And so if any of you would like to tag along, please let me know and I can tell you which schools we're going to and you can meet us there. No ruining the surprise. And then the third one, I think we're going to be doing next week at some point. So really excited about that. And we have several sponsors from our community who've helped out with the awards and fun things that those people get. And so we've got plans for how to roll all that out too. And so looking forward to it. And then we'll of course have them come to a future board meeting so you can chair them on here as a board. So with that, I will conclude unless you have something you want me to talk about. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Moving on to board matters for 5.01 items from board members. Anybody want to take the first shot at this?
I'll go.
All righty, Ms. Brooke.
I just want to say I'm looking forward to tomorrow attending the mental health deal that Spring Creek and Elko High Schools have teamed up together to do for parents. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And it's been great to see the things that the students have been doing this week. in support of that. Also just wanted to say Laura Pope, I've worked with her closely in some different ways, and I just love her so much. I'm not surprised a bit that she was awarded a S.T.A.R.S award, and she really does have a love for music and a love for kids, and she's just passionate about what she does, and just love her. Want to say congratulations.
Thank you, Brooke. Additional comments from the board? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a short NASB report. Just going over minutes from the last meeting that was held, I believe it was the 26th of April. Couple things I just wanted to touch on. I mentioned earlier, but some of the focus with the legislative committee progress and updates, the focus really was on the Commission on School Funding had a robust discussion on rural capital funding. They're supportive of it, and NASB should work closely with the commission. But everybody was in consensus, like I said, that it's capital funding is a serious issue for all districts, aside from Washington and Clark, who have separate mechanisms for it. But us rurals don't have those same opportunities. So that really is a focus going forward. Another thing that came up was membership dues committee. We recommended rather than a 20% increase, dues are gonna go up for 8% for fiscal year 25, followed by another 8% increase in 26, and then 5% on 27. And that was voted on and approved. And then lastly, nominations. I sent an email to Cassie earlier today to distribute to all of you. It is this packet you'll see is nominations for awards at the yearly NASB conference. One of the things I wanted to point out, and I'm sorry I don't have it underlined here, let me find it real quick, but I believe they were talking about Washoe is the only district that has consistently filled out recommendations for these awards every year. And I just think that we can do that. So I hereby challenge each and every one of you to look through these, to come up with somebody that we can nominate for every single one of these. Let's discuss it next meeting. And then let's pass out assignments, because there is some, you need to add some supporting materials. We're going to have to write some essays or basically say why this person should be nominated for their particular award. So just as a preliminary exercise, what I'd like to see is if we could all just take a look at those over the next couple of weeks, and let's talk about it again at the next meeting. But I don't want them to be the only county in the state that's doing this every year. We should be doing it at some that's at least when since I've started and going to the conference, the award ceremony is fun, but I'd love to see some more of us up there, or some more of our educators. We have some really great people in this district, some sitting right in the room, that would be worthy of recognition, not only for the S.T.A.R.S program, but even higher with the state, with the NASB, such as, school administrator of the year. You have district employee making a difference. NASB director of the year. District level administrator of the year, impacting student achievement. It goes on and on. There's about, I believe, 8 categories that we could do nominations for. And I know on previous years we've fallen flat on that. So I challenge you to let's do something. Let's be 100% on that this year and every year going forward.
Jeff, what's the deadline for those? So everyone can be prepared?
It's actually not
For us, it's going to be before July 1. Because we're going to need some time.
August 16th. So we have some time on this, but I think we can get this wrapped up in say 2-3 meetings. I think if we come back next, maybe we can talk about an agenda item for it to discuss this specifically in the next meeting, and then come up with recommendations, and then a following meeting after that, we finalize it and send it off, so that we don't have to wait till the last minute. It'd be nice to relax in the summer. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Additional board comments?
I just have one other quick one for NASB. We've requested several times to have some virtual training. And there is a virtual training everyone should have received an
Oh,
email that I'm sure
yes.
Jeff sent out via Cassie. There is a virtual training on May 30th. So I think that's a great thing to take
I would
advantage of.
add that that one is a requirement. It addresses a specific requirement. One of the reasons I came up with that one is because that's the last one I have for my certified public official. What do you call it? Yeah, my certified,
That's it.
my
That's the
CPO.
title.
So, and I know Susan, you're actually very close too. So I would encourage anybody, even if you're not interested in getting that certification, but this is one of those it's not an elective, it's a requirement for that certification. So you'll all be able to fulfill that virtually. Yeah, on the 30th. And if that's not out already, I'll make sure that gets, my apologies.
Have it. I'll be there.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Additional comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to update on a lot of the success we've had the past few weeks at the high school, both high schools, I think. We had Teacher Appreciation Week, which was a lot of fun. Snacks were provided to them throughout the week. They got to pie students in the face at lunch and
Oh, nice.
pick some music at lunch. It was a lot of fun. And then Mental Health Week this week has been going well, as it's been said, combined with Elko High School. We've had some dress up days. The other day was wear green. Today was twin day. So we've had a lot of participation in school spirit shown, and then had a motivational speaker today as well, and doing skate night tomorrow. So it's been very successful. So yeah.
Thank you, Scotty. Anything else from the board?
If I could just make one comment on what Jeff was saying about NASB working on, going into the next legislative session. A report was requested from every district to fill out condition of facilities, age of facilities, costs, a bunch of stuff. And we've already submitted our part from Elko County School District to make sure they have what they need to have a robust argument, so to speak. So I just wanted, in case you wondered whether or not we were doing that yet, it's been done.
All righty, then I'm going to just make this very brief. Congratulations to all of our teachers of the year that were mentioned already, and perhaps we have some good nominees for here within that august group of people. So thank you all very much for that. We'll go ahead and move on, if there's nothing else, to 6.01, approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve accounts payable.
Second.
Any discussion on the approval of the accounts payable?
I have to disclose that I have a family member that works for Lone Wolf, so I will be abstaining from voting.
Any other disclosures of record?
I will disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Electric, but I will not be abstaining.
And I will disclose that I have a family member working for Wells Rural Electric and will also not be abstaining from voting.
All right, thank you very much for those statements. And it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. 7.01 is the meeting closing. We had a public admonition earlier about comments to by the general public. That still stands. Any public comment? Seeing none, we will adjourn this meeting and we will meet again in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Have a great night. And good luck, Mr. Anderson, at the jazz concert this evening. And to the rest of our jazz performers.